Hi everyone. We're back from the FanStands. We're back with another video. This week, we were going to cover Tottenham's match, but before that, we want to cover the big breaking news of the week:
Yeah.
Pochettino getting sacked and Jose Mourinho coming in. So, Dejan, what's your take on it?
Well, it's a weird sensation. It's not a sensation really, but a feeling. It's a weird feeling because at one end, Mourinho coming into the Premier League again.
I thought you
You
wanted
know,
him to go to Arsenal.
well, I did. Obviously, I did. But at the end of the day, I don't own Arsenal. So it's upon the owners of Arsenal. Obviously,
I don't think he wanted him to go to
yeah.
Arsenal.
I thought that he was a better fit there.
Yeah,
You know,
the opinion was
as
because
compared to
when you compare Spurs and Arsenal, no disrespect to any of the clubs, but I believe Arsenal is a bigger club than Tottenham.
100%. But when a person thinks about the replacement, Pochettino getting the sack, and Jose Mourinho being brought in as a replacement, at one end, you feel very depressed about the whole situation because Pochettino is a legend of the club, because of everything that he's done for Tottenham, took them to the final, Champions League final as well. So my point is, but at the contrasting end of it, Jose Mourinho coming in, exciting for the Premier League. You obviously know that's progress because he's a serial winner. Some people may argue that in recent times he hasn't been the serial killer that he was, the serial winner that he was. But at the end of the day, his CV speaks for him, his resume speaks for him, his credentials speak for him. So I feel that it's just a step up. I guess in terms of management, he can obviously not that Daniel Levy really goes for spending big in transfer windows, but even if he does, I feel that Mourinho, as compared to Pochettino, would be able to attract the biggest name in world football.
Definitely, and with the situation currently at White Hart Lane, I mean, three of the main players, Vertonghen, Eriksson, and Alderweireld, they only have 6 months left on their contract, and they're not willing to sign.
Yes.
They were not willing to sign under Pochettino. I can understand the sentiments for Pochettino and where Dayan is coming from. I mean, Pochettino, he achieved great 5.5 years at the club. It is because of him. He laid the foundation for the club.
Definitely.
He made Tottenham into a top four club, and he ensured that they stay there. But the thing is that unfortunately every story has an end to it.
100%.
And Pochettino, I think the only issue was if he was given a full season to, a full last season then and and had left the club on mutual consent, then we might not have been so surprised.
Yeah, because there are two parts to the whole story. One end you respect Pochettino and you would
Definitely.
want the club to give him a whole
Definitely.
season, but at the other end, obviously, if a club like Tottenham, wants to prove their hunger for the best, they have to take such decisions,
They-
as quickly as they can.
But what do you guys think? There were statements from Mourinho earlier when he was at other clubs that he would not be found dead managing Tottenham or something of the like, and players didn't really
you get
like them
these
as
sort
well.
of statements. I mean, Mourinho, I never thought he would ever manage United, although he wanted to. Real Madrid and Manchester United were his dream jobs.
Yes.
And personally, if you ask me, after he left United, I was sure that he might go to PSG to manage a different league, a new league, and try to win the Champions League with them. But this is football. This is what happens. You never know what to expect. I mean, Rafa Benitez managed Chelsea for a season, so
Yeah, anything can happen.
Anything can happen in football now. Sorry,
But I
just-
remember, sorry, I'm cutting you in between, but I remember, among the two of us, you were probably the one, who actually favored the potentials of Mourinho managing Tottenham.
I did. The reason is, if you see Tottenham, they've made a very good stadium. It is one of the best stadiums in England or even
And
in
their
Europe.
training grounds as well.
And the training ground is amazing. They've spent billions, and if you just see the video, I mean, it is amazing. And Jose Mourinho said that they have one of the best training grounds and unmatched training grounds at all of the clubs he's been to. This is the best he's seen. And also, on the other hand, do you guys know that Mourinho's getting almost double what Pochettino is getting? There are rumors that Pochettino is getting around 7 to 8 million a season, and Mourinho is getting 15 million. But the
Really?
question comes in, like, I want to know that what were the discussions between Levy and Mourinho, because a month or two ago, Mourinho said that his next move will be a very carefully made decision, and he's going to sort where he's going to be, and he's going to go there for long term. So then again, Mourinho was at Manchester United now. I'm not sure if it's right to compare, but after the Woodward and Mourinho relation, their situation, do you think, I've read somewhere that Levy and Mourinho, relation might be a recipe for disaster? Would you like to?
Well, they're a very odd couple to begin with. If if you chalk down the basics, if you go into the basics, let's talk about Mourinho, how he wants to be in the transfer market. He's one of those managers that want a blank check, and they want to write down the total amount of that check themselves. And Levy, on the other hand, is a very high involvement, intrusive, owner of the club. So I feel that yes, at one end you're right about that, but at the second end, if you look at Mourinho's past, one would see that he was sacked from Chelsea in a very I'd call it a bit of a humiliating way,
Yes.
2 times.
The
And
second
then-
time, especially.
Exactly,
yeah.
and then when he came to United, the fans loved him initially. During his time, the one positive that came out of it were the fans opening their eyes towards the ownership of the club, and obviously the performance of the CEO. But again, as in wherever Mourinho goes, I don't know if anyone who even follows Mourinho. I love Mourinho, to be very honest. But
That was quite evident.
exactly, but you don't expect Mourinho to probably spend a decade or two at a club like Sir Alex Ferguson or Arsene Wenger. You know, he is a manager. He's a 3-season manager. He comes in, he does really well in the first season, gets a trophy in the second, and then
The third
Moves
one
on.
the third one
doesn't work out.
he
Third season
goes
syndrome.
flat. But I guess he's coming into Tottenham because of a couple of reasons. Because when he went to United, one of the biggest hindrances for him to possibly execute his vision as well, other than just the ownership, was that whenever Mourinho played, Mourinho is a very pragmatic manager, and the fans really dislike that because the United way of the brand of football that United plays is very attacking. It's very direct. They love to play counter-attacking football. It's exactly the football Ole is trying to make United play. But with Mourinho in there, he had to carry on a legacy, which I feel that Mourinho is more of a trendsetter than a trend follower.
Definitely.
In Tottenham's situation, it's fairly different. In Tottenham's situation, he's come to a club who haven't been habitual winners and who are looking for silverware more than a brand of football per se. So him being pragmatic as well wouldn't exactly be minded at Tottenham
As long as
if
they have
as long
trophies.
as they have silverware. At the end, obviously, there's a point that you raised that with Alderweireld and two other players, obviously, running out of their contracts, I see the signing of Mourinho as possibly it's obviously a mission for Mourinho to sustain those players, but I see it as a positive. Why? Because this is a new manager. Players would want to prove themselves to this new manager, and this new manager is a blockbuster manager. That's what I'll
Definitely.
call him.
No doubts on
So my point is, A, he needs to do that. B, obviously he needs to make them play better,
And recover a good
recover their position in the leaderboard, and obviously the general mood. Interestingly enough, we talk about Ericsson, but we never talk about Dele Alli. When we're talking about the midfield, I feel that both of them haven't really been jumping their gun recently, and I feel that one of the biggest challenges would be him trying to develop a relationship with the two players and obviously making them play as well, because if you look at Tottenham last season or even the season before that, one of the two major names were Dele Alli and Ericsson,
And,
other than obviously
than
Harry
Harry Kane.
Kane and
You guys.
even
defense.
Alderweireld for that matter.
Yeah.
Plus, another interesting bit is that while he was at United, this guy really wanted Alderweireld
Yes.
to
Yeah,
come
he
into
did,
United.
he
He was
did,
strongly
did.
linked to Alderweireld. So I feel that he is obviously he's looking at a set of players that he likes, he obviously likes, and he felt that this is possibly a club that I can go to. I won't have that pressure of probably a very long heritage of the brand of football really hurting me. But again, when it comes down to him talking about Danny Levy spending in the in the transfer market, that's going to be an interesting bit to see.
That will be. Sorry.
I believe Daniel Levy has already said that in the January transfer market he won't be getting much funds.
Exactly, and the first interview, I'm sorry I'm cutting you in between, but in the first interview, Jose Mourinho, also one very interesting thing that I saw was that I don't know if this is the United effect that he has, but he talked about the academy players. He actually talked about the academy at Tottenham being pretty promising, and he would want to play along them. Now I don't know if that was him being in a pressure position and talking just to get a job and coming back into the Premier League, because obviously he's made this very clear. He was missing football. Life as a pundit was very temporary for him. That's still something that only time will tell.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mourinho, the impact he has on our daily lives as a fan. I mean, when he came in, it was around 1, 2 a.m. in the night in Karachi. So you can imagine the social media trending Mourinho is back, and all the other groups. I mean, clubs who have nothing to do with Spurs. We talk about Arsenal, United, Chelsea, even Liverpool pages. I mean, it was quite a breaking news. And the next day on Wednesday morning, all I could see was even on the Liverpool fan pages that everyone was talking about Mourinho coming to Spurs, and in a positive way. I mean, he will probably make English football exciting again. And one thing I read something by a Spurs fan. Spurs motto says "Dare to believe,"
Yeah.
and Pochettino injected that motivation in that belief in the team.
Yeah.
Now Mourinho, he is going to bring that dare to achieve attitude in the team, because he is a serial winner. Wherever he's gone, he's won. And I'm sure before coming in, as I pointed out before at the start of the video, I'm sure he must have had discussions with
100%,
Levy.
100%.
It's not like he won't just take any job. And he was seen at Arsenal, at Emirates. We don't know, maybe Levy has assured him something which Arsenal did not. And
100%.
this is also one good thing. I'll tell you something personally, and a lot of fans do talk about it. A few years ago when Liverpool was struggling and Spurs, a lot of jokes are made and memes are made that Liverpool and Spurs lack that mental strength to win a league or win trophies.
Yes.
And I was sitting with a friend and I said, I'd love to see Mourinho come on and take a challenge by managing Spurs or Liverpool and win the league with them. And so now he's actually taken the role, but let's hope, as a neutral, I hope he doesn't take pressure. And I'm sure this season not much will be expected. As Hassan, you mentioned, he is 14th on the league at the moment, but the point difference isn't that much. I mean, if he wins a few games on trot and the other team drops points, so he can easily come in the top 5.
Except for the top 4, the others are really, club to
Really close. Really
Interestingly
close.
enough, Mourinho is one of those managers, because we tend to forget, the part of his career where he was a very different person. And people debate about if Mourinho has lost that charisma in him, but I feel that I still see that in him, and I hope that it's still in him. If you go back to Inter Milan's time, if you go back to Chelsea's first season that he had,
Even
when he
Real
was
Madrid.
being sacked from Inter Milan or Chelsea, players like Frank Lampard, John Terry, they were in tears.
Yeah,
So
Drogba literally cried.
exactly. So when you're talking about developing loyalties, Mourinho is the guy. Plus, Mourinho really reminds me of this really old manager, Brian Clough. He really reminds me of him. When he started managing Derby County, and then from Derby he went to Leeds, and in Leeds it didn't really work. So he went back to a smaller club. So obviously, I don't know. History does repeat itself, but a lot of times it doesn't. But as a fan of football, although I support United, I am seeing the situation to that particular point that he went to a really big club, United, he didn't fail there, but
But
he
it
got
happened.
got the sack.
He
If you
didn't.
talk,
He didn't achieve
he
what he
said in the
set out.
media. I mean, when he finished second, and don't forget he won.
That was an
He won a
achievement.
treble. I mean, that wasn't the main treble a club wants like United like they did in '99.
Right.
But still, see managers who've come before him or after him. Yes, let's be fair to Oli. He needs more time. The situation is much different than how they were when Mourinho was there. But still, he proved that he can win something, and he said that finishing second with the United side which he had was a
The
big
heritage
achievement.
that he had.
Well,
The
it was a big
heritage.
achievement. So I'm sure he can achieve with Spurs. There is, if he's lost the league, yes, but there is the Champions League to play for, and he does have the FA Cup coming in. So
There is a lot to play
there's a
for.
lot to play for,
I
and
agree.
I think Pochettino again.
Yeah, let's talk about Pochettino
With
as
all
well.
due
'Cause
respect, we do feel sad, but he lost the dressing room, and I'm sure there was unrest, and the players were informed beforehand that he might be leaving the club
Yeah.
earlier than expected. We expected before, even if you see in our earlier videos, we thought that Pochettino might be given till January, the transfer window, or at least by till the end of the season.
I remember this being, I was reading an article a day before this happened, and I was telling you guys, that the players are
Are
already
being braced.
bracing themselves
Yes.
for a change in management, and that Pochettino's already, had a talk with Daniel Levy. So I personally feel that this was something on the cards. The ownership was just waiting for the right moment, and when that happened, you saw a very quick switch. At night, Poch got the sack.
And
In the
in the
morning,
morning,
Mourinho got appointed. Coming to
Pochettino. Yeah, let's talk
coming to
about
Pochettino,
Pochettino as well.
I feel that Pochettino obviously he's going to be remembered by Tottenham fans, for everything that he's done for this club. Honestly, he's brought them back onto a level where they can actually stand firm, and have that kind of arrogance to be a top four club. Other than that, if you talk about his managerial career, I see him. He's left three brilliant use cases for him to prove him as a top manager in the world. You look at Espanyol, he did a very
Amazing
decent and amazing job there.
Then at
If you look at Southampton, he really groomed the budding players at Southampton. A lot of players, and obviously those budding players uh, brought in a lot of revenue for the club as well. Plus, they played really well back then, I remember. If you look at Tottenham obviously he changed it and turned everything around, changed it to a top four club.
He did.
So at the moment he's already being linked to Arsenal, and very heavily linked to Arsenal and to Bayern Munich. So even Sky Sports has already published, because Sky Sports for me is one of those news channels that are authentic as it gets. And till something isn't on Sky Sports, I don't believe in it, to an 80 or a 90% mark. So they've already, published this as well, that he's being heavily linked. So I don't see the potentials, any limits in the potentials that he's got post the Tottenham era in his life.
Definitely. I mean, see, even during Spurs, he's not won anything, but he's won a lot of hearts and won a lot of confidence.
Agreed.
He's been still being linked to big clubs. I mean,
Yes.
and it's as big as it gets. And for Mourinho, I think this is it can't get bigger than this. I mean, Mourinho, he's a manager who can walk into any club he wants. So.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what
He's a special
that is
one.
how I feel. And Spurs, see, they haven't won anything. They'll embrace the style of football he plays if he can bring trophies for them. And apart from that, one thing I like to say, I don't know him. I wish I knew him personally. To Mr. Fabrizio Romano, I mean, his news
Yeah.
was absolutely spot on.
Fabrizio
Spot
Romano
on.
is a very credible source. Honestly
credible.
speaking, I follow him. Very.
Yeah, we follow him thoroughly.
yeah.
I mean, and very reliable.
Even on Twitter, whenever he posts something, he's one of those. He's sort of what Gulam Lag was back in the day.
Back in
Uh,
2000s.
Exactly, but he was pretty spot on with his all his forecasts and all his news. But I feel that at the end of the day, with Mourinho coming in, Judas is back, obviously,
yeah.
and there's a lot that will change. It will change a lot of things. Honestly, he's coming back to Old Trafford as well.
I like to talk about the football as well, if you don't mind. I mean, lucky that we've already played Spurs. He's going to face United in December.
Yeah.
What do you think? I know it's only been 2-3 days since he's come in, but
What
what is going to happen in the match against West Ham away? Because
before we were discussing that Tottenham was not going to do really
I
well.
expected West Ham to
See,
win.
what I expect him to do is, at the moment, whatever Dele Alli may have, posted about him on Twitter, back in the day, he's the manager there, he's the boss, and every player has got to prove to Mourinho that they can play, and they have what it takes to be a serial winner. Because Mourinho is one of those managers who can be ruthless as well.
Definitely.
So my point is that everyone's gonna be trying to prove themselves, and I see a very positive response. In terms of the style of play, I feel that Mourinho has always been a very pragmatic manager. He's been a very defense-minded manager, and I don't exactly see them playing the same way that they used to. If Pochettino was there, I would have gone for a draw possibly, or a very close win. But now that Mourinho is there, and I know that it hasn't been a lot of time, it's been just one training session.
One
Is yet?
session only.
So my point is that I still see a lot of differences here. I see, possibly a 2-0 win for Tottenham for sure.
Yeah, I feel yes, although there haven't been really many training sessions, but the mood generally changes.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's
That's
going to
right.
inject.
We've seen in previous seasons as well.
He's going to inject in confidence.
Whenever the manager is sacked, the team comes back to show the new manager that what they can do.
It happens. I mean, if I was Ericsson, I want to prove something to my manager. Maybe this might instill some confidence in me. Okay,
Exactly.
A top manager is coming in, and this is as big as it gets. So.
And
let me just try to show what I'm made of.
The kind of playing style that Mourinho brings into a club is that a club may not become a serial winner from the start, but that team becomes very difficult to play.
Yes,
the way he sets up the team becomes very difficult to break them down.
It's going to be very tight at the back.
Exactly. So my point is that I see West Ham possibly even getting frustrated. He's back. He wants to prove himself, and again, as Hassan rightfully mentioned, things are going to be much more positive. And I expect to see Dele Alli coming back, returning into his form. Ericsson returning into his form. In fact, Alderweireld had a little. I was seeing this fan cam video. But Alderweireld was talking to one of these vloggers, and honestly speaking, he sounded very positive about what's going to happen next, because such a big stadium requires a big name
Big name and trophies. So let's see. West Ham against Spurs, very first match of Saturday kickoff. So
because Judas is back.
I still expect a draw. I think Mourinho hasn't had enough time, and West Ham aren't in the greatest of forms. But they're playing away. It's been a very long time they have won anything away. So let's see how he fares in his very first outing as a Spurs manager. And
I see him winning the game.
Already waiting for his post-match conferences.
He's done a press conference today, by the way. Do check it out.
Yeah. Alright, I guess this is it for the video then. Do remember to like and share the video. Also subscribe to our channel and leave comments on what do you think about Mourinho and the future of Pochettino as well, his sacking. And also, do you think that the fortunes of Tottenham would change with Mourinho coming in on the short term as well as long term? We want to know what you guys feel that this signing has brought to Tottenham. Will it finally make Tottenham into a winning side? Giving them trophies and everything. So do let us know. And
for sure, do let us know, and all of you club followers out there, as in I know it didn't sound ideal, club followers, but Judas is back.
Judas is back.
Beware,
might get some silverware.
100%.
Alright.
I can't conscious. Get back. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care and
Signing off.
Allah Hafiz.
Bye bye.